Hello, how you doing? It's me, John Chukri, here in Calgary, Alberta, and this is an update video. Um, it's an update video on racial profiling in the New World, or now it's police brutality, and I'm going to try and talk with you about how police may be getting blamed for something that we all deal with and all suffer from in our society. And I'm going to revisit some old information that was in another video, but in this video I'm going to talk more about some of the things that are happening currently in the world. So, racism. Light travels at 300 million meters per second. It's a fact that if I show you this blue cup, light is being reflected in the blue light area of the visual light spectrum, and all the other colors are being absorbed into this cup as in thermal energy. So it's reflecting the color blue. So right now light is showing that this cup is blue. It's blue. So these cards are blue. This box here is red and gray. This Kleenex box. This is right here is purple. So I'm giving you some obvious examples of how we're stressed out by the speed of light, and how we basically get confused when it comes to all the different calculations that happen with light, like driving your car and stopping at a red light, and then being ready to go when the light turns green, and making sure you get that merge signal, and making sure that you stay a safe distance behind the transport. These calculations are very, very powerful, and they're happening a lot. It's happening so much that we need to sleep at least 8 hours a night just to have the energy to go through what we go through on a daily basis when it comes to calculating what we see in the light. And one of the things that we calculate when we're in the light is the skin of a human being. The skin of a human being. And with the skin of a human being, it's the largest organ. And you take a look at the hue of my flesh. I'm a white man. Whatever. I'm a white person, and when somebody looks at me, if they experience negativity as it's associated to me as a person, if it's another person of a different color or a different hue of flesh, they may say something racist towards me for being a negative person that engages with another person that's of a different hue of flesh or a different color of flesh. So racism is humanity stressed out by the speed of light, and that's not even talking about doing construction work or doing paperwork or typing on your computer, or me doing this right now. I'm giving off energy. Like right now, you can see this orange picture. I just calculated that there's an expenditure of energy that's involved with identifying this orange picture with a buffalo skull. This plant here with the green. Like, there's a lot going on when it comes to the speed of light. And if we're struggling as average everyday people, what are the police going through? So, in our fast-paced society, where it's all about living in the opportunity of daylight, the police don't have the time to get to know people. They don't have the time to find out if somebody's from North Korea, or somebody's from Wales, or somebody's from Liverpool, or somebody's from Congo, or somebody's from Ghana, or somebody's from Germany, or somebody's from Poland. They don't have time to get to know if somebody is Iroquois or Cherokee or Apache. The cops don't have the time in an interracial society, be it in Europe, be it in North America, be it now in Russia and stuff like that, because it's starting to become interracial all over the world. And this is a good thing, in my opinion, but when it comes to a fast paced society, the police get a bum charge towards them that they basically um, are saying they're being racist. They don't have no choice but to identify what they see. Now, here's a clear example of how interracial societies differ from societies that have the same people. Um, if you go to Ghana right now, in Ghana, if the police are looking for a Ghanese perpetrator, they don't say they're looking for a black man. There might be some type of protocol that says, yes, it's a Ghanese person rather than a foreigner. There might be something like that. But generally, when they're looking for somebody, they're looking for the clothing, they're looking for the weight, they're looking for a hat, they're looking for the height. That's what they're looking for. They're not looking for a black person, a black Ghanese person. Now, sure, there might be a Ghanese person that's a fourth generation Ghanese person that's European origins and is a white person and considers himself Ghanese, but it's not as popular as it is in multiracial or multicultural societies. So if you go to North Korea, and in North Korea, um, the police are looking for a North Korean man. Um, are they looking for an Asian or are they looking for a North Korean man? They probably don't say they're looking for an Asian. They probably don't say they're looking for a North Korean man. They're looking for a perpetrator that has a certain attire, a certain height, a certain weight, a certain hair, hat. Um, they might be going in a certain direction, and it's assumed that they're part of this segment of the city in North Korea. So the cops aren't saying we're looking for an Asian. They don't say that. They probably do have it in a protocol. Yeah, this person is most certainly a North Korean and not an outsider. Um, this is in China too. Like in China, they're not looking for an Asian person when there's a perpetrator. They're looking for a Chinese person. Now they might be able to tell the difference between somebody that's Han or or from a Mandarin part of society or a Cantonese part of society, and there's certain characteristics in the facial structure and stuff like that. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to that. But what I'm saying is that the cops aren't looking for an Asian person. They're not looking for a Chinese person. I mean, they're looking for a Chinese person, but they're not looking for a color, a race, because these societies that I just talked about are isolated into their own ethnicity or race or culture or group of people of similar features. So the cops in the United States and Canada and Europe, if a cop is looking for an Arab Englishman in England, let's say a fourth generation Arab that has grown up in England, um, and he considers himself an Englishman, but he has the appearance of an Arab. Are the cops going to say we're looking for an Englishman? No, they're not going to say they're looking for an Englishman. They're going to say they're looking for an Arab or a Semitic person, Semitic hair follicle, Afro hair follicle. Um, so what I'm trying to say is that in our fast-paced, capitalistic, interracial, multicultural society, we have a situation where the cops are dealing with good freedom and bad freedom. So, is a concealed weapon good freedom, or is it bad freedom? Is um, selling illegal cigarettes a good freedom or a bad freedom? Do the cops turn a blind eye to gangsterism as it's associated to bad freedom? Like if we're going to experience freedom as a society and as a capitalistic, fast-paced society, the cops have to basically they have to be vigilant, but they have to focus more on fear rather than intimacy. And because they're not focusing on fear, they're focusing on fear rather than intimacy. It gives the Italian La Cosa Nostra the opportunity to pursue good freedom by using bad freedom to get good freedom. So we have this situation in America of gangsterism where The Italians did it, the Irish did it, the English did it, the Cowboys did it. Um, all throughout the history of multiracial, multicultural, free societies, there's been an experiment to find out about good freedom and bad freedom. Now, a lot of people want the good freedom because the good freedom means you have a clear conscience and you feel like you're legit. But the bad freedom is prohibition, drug dealing, um, concealing, selling weapons. Um, but the thing is that the good part about this bad freedom is that a lot of people in North America have pursued bad freedom with the purpose of their children becoming doctors and accountants and lawyers and veterinarians and not bootleggers, not drug dealers, not all these things. So people in America, they want to experience good freedom and have a clear conscience. I'm reminded of Tony Montana when in the movie Scarface when he went home to visit his mother and father. I think it was his mother and father, um, and they were disgusted by him. They didn't want anything to do with him, and because they didn't want anything to do with him, it didn't matter how much money he had. It didn't matter what he could provide them with. They were disgraced by it, and they were willing to take a humble, meager living and help their kids become something other than a cocaine dealer. So that's just an example of people pursuing good freedom by doing bad freedom. Now that could be associated to, I think it's Fyodor Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment, where that guy decides to rob that old lady, I think, and the purpose of robbing her was to get the money so he could become a good person, and he wouldn't be poor and destitute and stealing fruit and all that stuff. Um, so people don't want to be poor. People want to prosper, and that's a big thing in religion. That's a big thing in politics is work and prosper and gain and good freedom and prosperity and all that stuff. And when it comes down to it, a lot of people break the law in order to be experience good freedom. So the American dream, um, the American dream is focused on a lot of different things, and the police don't have the time to tell the difference between a North Korean and a Vietnamese person. They just say Asian in a multiracial society. So the cops don't have the time to get to know these things. So it's obvious that what we're dealing with is the stress of the speed of light. And if we want our cops to be these stoic heroes rather than concerned citizens, then we're living in a false reality of good and bad freedom, good and bad uh, us versus them, and they versus you, and all that stuff. And if we think that our cops have to be this stoic statue of heroism, rather than being a citizen that's concerned about children, that's concerned about addiction issues, that's concerned about um, domestic violence, that's concerned about traffic issues. Like their main problem is dealing with how technology is growing and growing and growing. And the faster technology grows, the less control they're going to have over the invent of new drugs to sell in the streets, like fentanyl and all these different drugs that are coming out now, like crystal meth and stuff like that. This is like way worse than alcohol. Not that I'm trying to downplay alcohol, but the cops are like focusing on the driving and the fast-paced, capitalistic, innovative society that's just go, 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 go. And they don't have time to reach out to that 13, 14, 15-year-old kid that's hooked on crystal meth, that's ripping scabs off their body. The cops love these people. I know they do, or they wouldn't be doing the job that they're doing, which to me suggests that they're human just like us and they're citizens. Citizens. They're not heroes. They're not. If they were heroes and we expect them to do the drug treatment and go and talk to the people, everybody's like La Costa Nostra, Lucky Luciano and Frank Costello and Bugsy Siegel and Meyer Lansky and Tupac Shakur and Notorious B.I.G. Everybody thinks that being a gangster is more romantic than what our policemen are doing for people. Now, at the same time, the cops turn a blind eye towards anybody. It's hard to find justice in the situation. So, what I'm trying to express here is simply the cops don't have the time to get to know people. And the more technology and innovation happens, the more crime and property theft and identity theft and all these things are happening, and addiction issues. Um, the cops, the first thing that they have to do when they're observing a very destructive crime in our society is to stop it. So if the cops' main goal is to stop these things from happening, if they're the policemen and policewomen are supposed to stop, well, maybe we need to, as citizens of this planet that are suffering in our fast-paced societies, maybe we need to stop and say, what do you guys want? We need to have like some type of conversation with our policemen. We need to connect with them. So all I'm trying to say is, do we have a social expectation of cops to be like stoic statues? If we do expect them to be unbroken people or unhurt people as they use the jaws of life to pry a drunk driver out of a vehicle who's just lost their arm or their leg or is dead and ripped apart and seeing all that guts everywhere because they're not freaking obeying the law, and they do fail to get stopped by breaking the law. So we have a problem in our society and we need to stop long enough to find out what it is that we want. We can't continue moving forward with this group of people trying to nepotistically provide for their family through bad freedom, and to provide, like, here in Calgary there's a large group of Sikh people, and they're very very focused on driving and moving and stuff like that. So the police are dealing with the speed of light, and because they're dealing with the speed of light, they don't have the opportunity to slow down and get to know the difference between a Vietnamese person and a Taiwanese person, or to get to know the difference between a Somalian and a Sudanese person, or to get to know the difference between a Polish man and a Russian man, or to get to know the difference between an Afghani person and a Kurdish person. Like, the cops don't have the time to do this, and because they don't have the time to do this, we're in a situation where we can no longer let light push us around. Now, I know it's cool to be like James Dean and Arthur Fonzarelli and Cowboys and Indians and stuff like that, and all that type of cops and robbers thing. And we can't leave our policemen and police women to be emotionally ripped apart by us destroying ourselves if we can't take the time to stop, look, and listen to each other, especially our policemen. So all I'm trying to say is, the cops are stressed out by the speed of light, just like we are. It's like, I'm gonna make another video, an update on racism, as it's associated to science, and basically the cops are dealing with the same thing here in our society. They're racially profiling people because they don't have the time to intimately get involved with our fast-paced society. And it's sure there's racist cops. There are racist cops, and they're a little jaded. And we need to change something. We need to change something. Like, we can't let our policemen think that their lives are on the line when it comes to us. If we come into contact with cops, and they're so serious about fentanyl addiction, about heroin addiction, and opiates and crack and meth and all that stuff, if they're so focused on that stuff that they can't relax and say, hey, you're part of my society. Like they do connect with people, but it seems like we're at a little disconnect with our policemen. I want to talk with them. I want to communicate with them. I want to march with them and for their lives, for Black Lives Matter, for every child matters. We're in a situation where we need to change, and we don't need a race war. I could talk about Trump and all that stuff, and the problems in the United States of America. But racism is humanity stressed out by the speed of light, and cops are humans that are stressed out by the speed of light also. They're not stoic heroes that are going to just take on the evils of our society. We are the society. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.